you do it. And also all of you are different writing levels and writing strengths, and know thyself on it. You may be able to pull that off. The strategies I've seen that are most successful are typically where you're taking one or two examples and then using those examples to unpack something about yourself. That's usually what's effective. But certainly, if you have a certain idea or facet of your personality, go for it. I think you just have to go in knowing, what am I trying to get across to that college in the process?
The next question. Thank you all so much for the awesome presentation. Now, I know that I should try to emphasize my uniqueness as a student and a human, and to open myself to expand myself in the future. My question is, how do you feel about essays which do not have a clear-cut thesis? I am more of a creative writer.
Again, think of your essay as the meal of your, the course meal. Perhaps in that essay, you can talk a little more about your creativity and show examples of that creativity. But yeah, it's difficult to kind of write an essay in 600 words when you have so many creative outlets.
What is the suggested length of our personal statement? Remember, for the personal statement, it is 650 words or less. I'm going to mention that, you do want to make sure that you are giving that information. You don't want it to be just 100, 200 words, but you also don't want to just fluff it. So if you can get to the point and if you make your statement, go for it. But I would try to emphasize as much as possible, giving examples, giving anecdotal experiences, sharing who you are, because 650 words isn't a lot. Again, as John and Jesus mentioned, they read, personal statements that starts with "I was born," and they're 17. So starting from the birth to 17 years old could be a lot of, there's a lot of information that may be able to be said. If any of you want to chime in on that.
You got it.
Pretty well said.
Yeah, well said.
The Common App will open up, I believe, in August, but you can be looking at the essays now. Most likely they're not going to change too much. But again, even just starting to brainstorm and ask those questions and figure it out and see at least what those options are can be helpful. Is it important to resonate with admission staff? Should we be writing essays that stand out?
I think it's important the essay, it's an opportunity for you to introduce yourself to the admissions committee. You don't know who that admissions committee, it could be somebody like John or somebody like myself. So it's important to sort of introduce yourself in the best possible light, whatever that means for you. I wouldn't spend too much time trying to figure out who the admissions staff is, who my territory manager is, and try to relate to that person, because we read tons of applications and essays. The most important part is, what is it that you want to highlight in your essay about yourself?
Yeah, I think, for schools, first of all, as much as I said people are subjective, we're also not reading for what we necessarily like as people. Certainly, we all have our unconscious biases, and that's something that implicit biases that we are all constantly working to check all the time. But the reality is, each reader that's trained for school, or like Jesus who's worked for more than one institution, you're trained and you focus on reading for the institution you're at. And every school is going to have different characteristics that they're looking towards. And that's why there's no point in trying to please everyone, because you're not going to. You simply cannot. And that's not a bad thing. I want to, you kind of struck a chord for me, this question of, should we be writing essays that stand out? I don't know what that means. And to be honest, it almost makes me a little concerned when I hear stand out, because frequently, going back to Ms. Withers' point earlier on, if you go into this with the mindset of, I want to stand out, I don't want to discount y'all's life experiences, but you're all 16, 17, 18. If you go in trying to stand out, you end up sounding like a boss 17 or 18-year-old who's trying to sound impressive. And the essays that stand out are the ones that are authentically you.
What was a statement that resonated with you or that you specifically remember?
The one that comes to mind, it was a student from LA. He talked about his interaction in meeting now our president when in the whole campaign. He's obviously very interested in political science, and in reading the application, I could see him trying to go through secret services so that he can shake the candidate's hand. That was it, and there was also good humor use in it. So that one comes to mind. But there's so many other great essays that I read also.
I'll share mine, but first, like, don't decide to write about this because we share these ideas. There was a story a couple of years ago. If any of you visit a certain very selective university in Palo Alto, they do not allow their information sessions to be recorded. They're very strict about not having, like, you can't take pictures, you can't film. And it's because apparently they were asked that question and someone talked about a swimming essay and they got 5,000 essays about swimming the next year because it went viral online. So I will tell you, but like, don't use this like as the thing you need to do. I had a beautiful essay, was it 2 years ago, about a student's morning coffee routine, like about them making coffee every morning and the way it was their time to like reflect. And it was like, again, not a very exciting thing, like making coffee. We all need it sometimes. But it was the way the student used it to kind of talk about their life and talk about some of their experiences. And it was just, it was memorable for that.
Okay. Now let's not talk about coffee in the next person.
I mean, if you really love coffee, but like...
Okay, I think this was answered already. What are the best, worst essays you've read and what can we learn from them? I think they've reiterated that already. And again, being yourself, right? Not going, if you can't swim, don't talk about swimming. Or if it's not like something that sparks your interest. Like, and again, also, you may not think it's unique, but some of the things you do are unique and are different. So I would encourage you to like hone in on that and accept that. Like, yeah, this is like, for me, I love spicy food. I've been eating spicy food since I was born. You know, I love tapatio. I love anything, Scotch bonnet. I love it all. You know, if I should have probably written my personal statement years ago on that, but you know, that's who I am. I love the spicy food. So anything that just makes you who you are, you can emphasize it and make it into a beautiful story. Okay.
Yeah. And then sort of adding on that, just be genuine. Just like think of like when you meet somebody. So whatever comes to mind, that could be a good starting point in writing your essay.
True. Wonderful. Thank you. I think this is our last one. To what extent can co-curricular activities help support your resume? Like you said, our academics are a major part of it, but how much weight for outside activities? How much weight do outside activities hold?
It depends. It depends again.
I love that.
Yeah, that's a cool little visual.
I just need it as like a sign to hold up, whatever. No, I'm not trying to be cheesy. We'll answer the question. I would just really quickly add for USF at least, and I want to be mindful of the pandemic. We know your activities have been a mess, particularly in San Francisco. We know we were the first city in the country to lock down. Your high school experience was not what you expected. And so I think that every school is looking at that with a little bit of the context of what was available to you. And that's the more important thing. I think prior to the pandemic, I could have had a more consistent answer for this question. Now, I think it's so dependent on the individual's experience and city they were in and school community they were a part of.
Yep. It all depends. Academics is going to be the most important part. It's the meal of like the main dish of your meal. And then the other things are like your, dessert, your appetizer, that sort of thing, which help us sort of build a really great meal. But yeah, academics is going to be the most important part. And then based on extracurriculars, essay, it all depends. And also kind of depends on the student. So for example, at UVM, we're a Division I school. So our skiers, that's all they have, even on a non-pandemic year, that they're doing skiing. And so it kind of depends on the student's sort of situation and their experience.
Thank you. Well, we want to thank John and Jesus for taking the time out of their very, very busy schedules. I just found out that this is their last week that they're reading all applications. So I know they are bombarded. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to communicate and share about the Common App personal statement and the process and the journey of writing and editing. We are truly thankful. Thank you, for your time.
Thank you for listening to SI Counseling Podcast. Here we help students find information to help them improve their opportunities throughout high school and beyond. SI works to help students grow into individuals committed to faith, justice, leadership, service, academic excellence, and compassion, so they can be with and for others. You can follow us on social media at SI Counseling on Twitter, and go to our website at siprep.org, and under academic departments, click on the link to counseling. Thank you again. Until next time.